The link between evolution and investing. Charles Darwin published his On the Origin of Species in 1859, detailing his theory of evolution. Just 100 years earlier, the general scientific consensus believed that the age of the Earth was no more than a few thousand years old. Darwin changed everything. Darwin's theory that all life has descended from a common ancestor was both radical and revolutionary, and his ideas on natural selection are far-reaching, beyond living systems. Part of Darwin's inspiration came from reading Thomas Malthus's An Essay on the Principle of Population, in which Malthus observed that the human population increases geometrically, doubling approximately every 25 years. Given that observation, and that the resources of food and land are finite, it must follow that there will be a struggle for existence and survival. In Chapter 3 of The Origin of Species, Darwin asserts, "Every single organic being around us may be said to be striving to the utmost to increase its numbers, that each lives by a struggle at some point in its life, that heavy destruction inevitably falls either to the young or old, during each generation or at recurrent intervals." This competition is what underlies natural selection. In his autobiography, Darwin writes, "It at once struck me that under these circumstances, favorable variations would tend to be preserved, and unfavorable ones to be destroyed. The result of this would be the formation of new species." There's a particularly fascinating connection between financial markets and evolutionary biology. Like life, all businesses are in a constant struggle to adapt or perish. Businesses face all sorts of challenges, such as competition within and outside their industry, governments, and nature. These challenges encourage improvement and economic progress. Here is a list of the constituents of the Dow Jones Industrial Average 100 years ago, in 1924. See Substack post for image. Do you recognize any of those companies today? All great businesses must eventually die, or simply become mere shadows of their former glory. We can use this mental model of natural selection applied to investing in order to avoid costly mistakes. Darwin contends, climate plays an important part in determining the average number of a species, and periodical seasons of extreme cold or drought I believe to be the most effective of all checks. Notably, businesses which are dependent upon outside financing are extremely fragile to economic vicissitudes. Outside financing makes a business closely connected to the economic macro environment. This is a prime analogy of the vulnerability of a species to adverse alterations in climate. The change in the economic climate is gradual, slow, and largely unnoticed. How many financial experts correctly predicted the great financial crisis of 2008-2009? It is incorrect, however, to attribute bankruptcies or other stock market calamities entirely to the change in the economy. In reality, companies are constantly under pressure, and self-reinforcing feedback loops are at play. The ability of a company to continually compounding over long time periods, defending itself from competition, while simultaneously always having cash in case of economic distress, is profoundly important in investing and often overlooked. Indeed, this long-term mindset influences the length of a business's runway, and consequently the amount of time a company can compound its capital. A 10% return compounded over 5 years yields a 1.6x, but a 10% return compounded over 30 years yields a 17.45x. To be an attractive investment prospect, a business must minimize the risk of ruin, opting to maximize its geometric rather than its arithmetic mean. And management can facilitate that by maintaining a fortress balance sheet with minimal net debt. Another mental model we can learn from Darwin is best illustrated by the following. The amount of food for each species, of course, gives the extreme limit to which each can increase. But very frequently, it is not the obtaining food, but the serving as prey to other animals, which determines the average number of a species. The total food available for a species is quite similar to the size of the total addressable market, TAM. Indeed, the TAM gives an upper bound on how large a business can grow, assuming the business does not expand into other markets. It is favorable to invest in an industry with tailwinds rather than headwinds, such as opting to strategically invest in businesses in the early 2000s that would benefit from the growth and mass adoption of the internet, rather than opting to stick to investments in newspapers or other hard publication stocks. Notwithstanding this mental model, the size of the market isn't the main determinant of the success of a business. Rather, its ability to successfully defend against competition, the strength of its moat.